And now we want to take a close look at how that Fulton County indictment came together and what we can expect as the case proceeds. For that, we're joined now by former Georgia prosecutor Chris Timmons. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. You've worked closely with one of the attorneys on this case, John Floyd, who was there right next to the DA during that announcement last night. He may play a big role in drafting that indictment. Explain his approach here.
Yeah, so John Floyd's a RICO expert. He literally wrote the book on state-level RICO charges that's used across the United States by attorneys who work under the RICO statute, either civil or criminally. John had a huge role in the Atlanta Public Schools case, which was an indictment that was very similar to the indictment that was returned yesterday. John was the principal architect on that document, although I don't think John's spoken publicly about whether he drafted the Trump indictment or not. The similarities between the two would seem to suggest that John wrote that indictment. He's absolutely brilliant, one of the best lawyers in the city of Atlanta. He doesn't get paid by the district attorney's office to work for them. He does it as something that he thinks is a public good. He's a volunteer.
And you've spent 17 years prosecuting RICO cases in Georgia. Many of us might associate RICO charges with mobsters, but is this an unusual approach for prosecutors in this case?
Not really. I mean, RICO nowadays is used a lot in gang cases, criminal street gang type cases. So right now, Atlanta has the YSL case going on, the Young Thug case, and that's an example of using the RICO Act as a gang prosecution tool. But it's also used both on the federal level and on the state level in more traditional white collar type crimes. For example, the admissions cheating scandal, where the wealthy parents were paying to have their children admitted to highly selective universities. That was a RICO indictment brought by the federal government. Kwame Kilpatrick in Detroit is another example of a politician being prosecuted under the RICO statute. So used to be just for mobsters, and now it's predominantly used everywhere else. In fact, I think the federal government's been pretty effective in cutting down on La Cosa Nostra, so they're using it as a tool elsewhere. The same as state-level prosecutions.
Based on what you know about this case, how difficult do you think it's going to be to get a conviction?
So I think it's not so much the charges that matter, but rather it's the defendants. You're taking on the president of the United States. A huge percentage of the population are going to vote for him regardless of what he's charged with. And that's not just at the ballot box. That's going to be in the jury room as well. So obtaining a conviction against him is going to be difficult in all four courts in which he has charges pending. As far as proving the case, I think logistically it's going to be a little tricky given the number of acts that are charged, and trying to keep the attention of the jury will be difficult. But keep in mind, this is the same district attorney's office, a number of the same attorneys who were able to keep jurors interested and got convictions in the Atlanta Public Schools cheating case, which was also a RICO. So I think the difficulty really is going to be the popularity of Donald Trump and overcoming that.
We're talking about a 98-page indictment involving 19 defendants, 41 separate criminal charges. You've pointed out that some of those charges are a bit unusual. Take us through those and why you think that they were included here.
Sure. So, I mean, some of them were like, I've never seen impersonating a public officer before. And the other thing is a number of the charges were brought as conspiracy charges as opposed to the underlying claim, which probably means that they were unsuccessful in bringing them. But that's really the unusual piece. The other thing that's unusual compared to a normal Georgia indictment would be the size of this indictment. I mean, I've tried murder cases that were 6-page long indictments, and each of those pages were a half-page long. 96-page indictment, 161 acts of racketeering activity. That is a massive document. And so really what's going on, and the reason why they brought it as a RICO was to be able to link up all 19 defendants to each other through the RICO conspiracy. And that's actually John over Fonnie Willis's right shoulder that we're seeing now.
Do you expect some of the defendants to plead prior to this going to trial?
Yes, absolutely. I think it would be unusual for all 19 to want to go to trial. There's going to be a number of folks that when the prospect of serving 20 years in prison is brought to them are going to want to enter a plea to possibly probation in the case and then decide to cooperate with the district attorney's office. However, I think something that's unusual about this case compared to other cases is you have a number of high profile individuals who are charged in the indictment. And when you're going after somebody who's high profile, they're very guarded about their reputations. And sometimes for them, a loss of reputation by admitting to criminal conduct is worse than going to prison. I've had that situation come up in a RICO case that I tried.
Really interesting insight there. All right, Chris Timmons, we thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.